Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome everyone back to the Prestige webinar series. After a quick 2-week break, we return to the airwaves looking to pick up where we left off. So welcome back for those of you that have stayed with us through the past number of months. I truly hope everyone was able to enjoy the end of their summer months, their holiday weekend. Now that the air is cooling off and the kids are heading back to school in some fashion or another, now it's time to focus on open enrollment. So my name is Jason Flynn, and I am the Director of HR and Client Services here at Prestige. I will be your host for today's webinar. We are happy to have back with us today Kathleen Sullivan, who is the Associate Director of Benefits for Prestige. And of course, joining us again today is our Tax Manager, Carol Sawyer, as well as our Director of Implementation, Ryan Yanafo. So as always, we do appreciate when people set aside their valuable time to participate in these webinars. We appreciate their expertise, and we're happy to bring all of this information to everybody today. So as we get into our webinar today, I'd like to take everybody through the topics of what we're going to discuss. Kathleen is going to be focusing on what to expect during the upcoming open enrollment period. And then from there, we're going to pass it over to Carol and Ryan, who will round up the webinar by providing an update on the Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness process. This is around the reporting, around the application process, and just general information. As you know, we've been discussing this for quite some time, and we'll continue to. We want to make sure everybody's questions are answered. As a reminder, all participants will be muted throughout the webinar. However, if you do have a question, please use the Q&A feature throughout the webinar and direct that question to the panelist. Of course, we're going to do our best job to make sure all the questions are answered, and if not, we'll certainly follow up with you after the webinar to provide you with that answer. Also, a copy of the presentation will be available on the COVID Resource Center within the Prestige website, as well as a recording of this webinar. So without further ado, I would like to pass things over to Kathleen Sullivan, who is going to talk to us about open enrollment. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning. Hi, this is Kathleen Sullivan. As Jason said, I am the Associate Director of the Benefits Department. Today's webinar is for clients, employees, and brokers. We're going to talk about open enrollment, and I'm hoping by the end that everyone has a clear picture of what to expect, what the process looks like, any changes that are important. For brokers, I want you to have the information so you can share that with your clients. For client managers, I'm hoping you have information you can share with your employees. We're going to talk about the process first, an open enrollment, then some of the plan changes, some new products. We're going to talk about timing, FSA, resources that are available. And finally, we'll summarize with everything we talked about today and where the things land at the end of the process, okay? Okay, so with that, let's start. Open enrollment. So open enrollment is that time of year, every year, where employers are going to make decisions about what plans they want to offer, what contributions they're going to make, and then for employees, open enrollment is that time of year for them to make changes to their own policies. So if they want to add dependents, take dependents off, move from one plan to another, upgrade their dental, this is that time of year. Okay, so let's talk about the process. First, we'll talk about employers. So everybody should receive, or start receiving, everybody should already be getting these, open enrollment letters, open enrollment grids, and menus for all the plans with full rates on them. The letter's going to give you a summary of changes and updates. Some of the things that I'm going over today, you're going to find in those letters. The renewal grid, we upgraded a little bit this year. So if you're a new Prestige group, and you haven't seen the open enrollment process, welcome, and I hope that you're happy with it. If you've been with us already for a few years, hopefully you're going to see some improvements in the way we're communicating back and forth for open enrollment. This renewal grid, you can see it on the screen a little bit, but you're also going to receive it in an Excel form. We made some upgrades. So in the past, when we were communicating with groups to find out what they want to do for contributions was not so super clean. So this year we made a few changes, and I think that you'll be happy with them. This grid is interactive, so you're going to see it divided by benefit classes. So if you have a management class and then an all employees class or a part-timers with benefits, there'll be a tab for each one. In that benefit class, you're going to see the plans offered, and you're also going to see the employees enrolled in each. So that's a big upgrade this year. If you can see that screen a little bit as an example, in this particular group, the all employees class, on plan 1, we have 9 singles. So if you look at that fourth column across, employee count. We also added percentages. So in the past, employers would say to us that they want to keep their contributions the same, but it was tough to know what they meant. They might have meant, I want to keep my contributions exactly the same, the dollar amount, or I want to keep my contributions the same percentage of the premium. So this year, when you go through this grid, you're going to see a little pull-down menu in the first column of the light green, and your options are going to be keep same flat dollar amount, keep same percentage, change that percentage, or change the flat dollar amount, or drop the plan. So this should make it a little easier. Not only do you have those options, but as you click keep same percentage, it's going to populate for you. Or keep same dollar, it's going to populate for you. If you choose a percentage, you put the percentage in, it's going to calculate that for you. So this really gives an employer a chance to work on strategies. You can change your options, see where things land. At the bottom of each page, each tab, you're going to see a total, so you can check what your costs are going to look like. And at the very end of the grid is a total of all benefit classes, just to give you an estimate of what open enrollment, what it's going to look like, and what it might cost you afterwards. It's an estimate because employees can change plans, change contracts, and so that'll shift, but at least you have an idea if everybody stayed exactly the same where you'll be with the rate increases. So hopefully everybody's going to appreciate this and use this grid, and I hope it works well. Once decisions are made, and employers, you're going to want to talk to your brokers, you're going to want to talk to your benefit specialist, come up with a strategy for the year. You may already know that. Consider your budget, consider what employees can afford, what you can afford, and when those final decisions are made, this populated grid gets sent right back to your benefit specialist, okay? We are looking for those grids back towards the end of this month. I know we didn't give a lot of time. We're a little late with open enrollment this year, but we still want the process to go smooth for everybody. So as soon as you have those decisions, send them right in. The process, once we receive the employer's decisions, is to set up our system so that emails can get sent out to the employees. Now, we do that a little different. We kind of have dates set for when emails go to employees. And the first date this year is October 6th. So if we get your answers back before the end of September and we have that information, we're going to send out emails to the first group of employees on the 6th, then the next group on the 9th, and then groups that offer Emblem will go out a little bit later, and employees will have time to make their selections. We do want employee decisions back by the end of October, but that's not a hard deadline. So if an employee needs more time, if they got their email late, we can give them a little more time. They're just going to reach out to their benefit specialist, and they can extend the time in the system for those employees to make those decisions. Okay. So the employees, they're going to get an email from PrestigePEO. If they forgot their username, if they don't know their password, they can reset it in the system. If they have any trouble, there's a phone number they can call, and we have a staff on hand to help them reset their password or to give them their username. they do have to be able to get into that self-service portal in order to make their elections. As the employees go through, they're going to be taken from one plan to the next, medical, and then dental, and then vision. And on each page, they're either going to elect coverage or they're going to waive it. They'll also see the coverage they currently have already in the screen, so that's good. When they get to the confirmation page, if they forgot to do anything, you'll see that in red. So they won't be able to submit on that confirmation page if they didn't waive or elect something in every category. So as a client manager, if your employees come to you and say that they can't submit, their confirmation pages should make it obvious what they might have missed, but you can certainly refer those employees over to Prestige and the benefit specialists. They can always see it too. They can log in and proxy and follow employees that are having trouble, so we're happy to help. In the top corner of the page, as the employees go through, it will keep a running tally of their costs. So I think that's helpful to employees so they know how much they're going to be spending monthly on their benefits as they go through the portal. The last thing they see is the confirmation page. They hit submit, and then they sign off, and they're done. Okay. We created an open enrollment portal, a microsite, if you will, this year. And this should be very helpful to both client managers and to employees. And brokers, you're welcome to go and look so you can help your clients too. In this microsite, some of the information we're going over today in the way of process is in here, but one of the things I find that you'll see in there that's going to be really helpful is a lot of time clients want to see where the employees are, how many have gone through, who's completed enrollment, who's still in process, and there's instructions on how to run a report right out of your employer Prestige Pro portal. So you can see where employees are. You can also talk to your benefit specialist. But there are instructions right in there, and that report is called Enrollment Status Report by Workflow. But you'll see instructions exactly how to run that on that microsite. Okay, so let's get into some of the coverages. I'm going to try and give you the more important information here in the beginning of the webinar, and then we'll kind of go over the rest of the things that come with Prestige that we just need to know from year to year. But I'm hitting the high points in the beginning. So first, most important, Oxford enhancements. So the biggest change this year is for Oxford, New York plans. I think a lot of you may know, some may not, but there was a big change in fertility coverage in New York mandates this year. So that all takes effect for our Oxford, New York plans, effective 11/1. They will now cover in vitro fertilization on these plans. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. That's on all New York plans. Has to be covered. It's a mandate. They can no longer restrict by age. So there used to be an age requirement for the coverage of in vitro, even on the plans that had it. They don't do that now. That won't be allowed. But the coverage is basically there's going to be coverage for 3 in vitro cycles and the storage that goes with that. So it's a real big upgrade in coverage. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. The second big thing on Oxford is that they are changing their platform. So what employees see when they log in is changing. It's going to be under United Healthcare now. It's still an Oxford plan, but the platform is going to be United Healthcare. And because we're changing platforms, all employees are going to get new cards and new ID numbers. So that's a very big deal. I want to make sure everybody knows that. New cards, new ID numbers for every member on Oxford. That's not just for New York. That's all Oxford. With that new platform, members should see an enhanced customer service experience. They have a mobile app called Health for Me where they can see doctors, claims, pharmacies. They have Quit for Life to help members quit smoking. They have Real Appeal, which is an online program to support employees who are working on weight loss, which is a lot of us now, thanks to COVID. And this is another enhancement. So Oxford has their gym reimbursement program, Sweat Equity. And they allow a lot more than just your standard gym on Sweat Equity. But the big change this year is that they are now reimbursing for children 13 and up. So where the subscriber or the member was getting $200 every 6 months as long as they went to the gym 50 times, the spouse, if covered, could get $100. Now the dependent child, 13 and up, can also get $100 every 6 months as long as they go 50 times. So chase the kids out of the house and right to the gym and get $100 back. Okay. United Healthcare. No big changes on these plans. They stayed the same. United Healthcare offers, this is our national platform. So if we have companies with multiple locations across the United States, they are often quoted our United Healthcare national plans. We offer a couple of different types of plans. Premier plans, they offer lower copayments for specialists if those specialists fall under a category they call Tier 1. Primary Advantage plans offer zero copays for primary care visits and for virtual visits. Plans use either the Choice Plus network, which is United Healthcare's biggest network, or they use a core network. So there are lower premium plans called core plans, and they extended the states where the core plan is offered. So that map right there shows you all of the states that core can be offered in now, more than it was before. So that's important. When an employer offers the core plan, the employees in that state, let's say it's offered in Texas, the core plan is a little lower in premium because it limits the network a little bit. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. When an employer offers a core plan in Texas, the employees in Texas need to see core doctors. If they have a kid in Kansas at school, they'll have access to the Choice Plus network because Kansas is not a core state. But in Texas, only the core network. All right, hopefully everybody's got that. Okay, Emblem Health. So we have some changes coming from Emblem Health, and I don't have as much information as I wanted to for this webinar, but it will be coming probably towards the end of this week, latest beginning of next week. Emblem's making some changes this year. They are going to offer 6 plans. So in the past, we offered 4. There will be 6 plan options now, and those options are changing a little bit. The first plan, Plan 1, is going to be the only plan that offers the GHI network. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. Plans 2 through 5 are going to have the HIP Prime network, and Plan 6 is going to have the HIP Select network. So that's not a new network for HIP, but it is a new network for us. We didn't have any plans with the Select network before. Employees currently covered on Emblem will be mapped to the closest plan they have. They'll also be able to change to whatever plan they want, but to keep any employees from being terminated if they don't make a selection, they are going to get mapped over to the closest plan. We, of course, want all employees to go through Open Enrollment Portal and see the plan options for them and make those selections. So there'll be more information coming for Emblem. Emblem members are also going to get new ID cards. All right, so I want everybody to be looking out for that. And the national network that Emblem is using going forward is going to be that First Health network. I want to make sure everybody knows that. They also offer an exercise rewards program. They did not upgrade it for children that I know of. And theirs runs kind of on a calendar year. So for them, the exercise rewards goes January to the end of June, and then July to the end of December. And it's the same thing, 50 visits, $200 for the subscriber, $100 for the spouse. Okay. Uh-oh. We lost the screen. Do they have it? Hang on one second. Technical difficulties.
Sorry, that was my fault. Hit an errand button. Just testing Kathleen. Kathleen, you can continue.
Okay, next page. Okay, here's your first new product. This is kind of exciting for Prestige, but we have a new product called LifeLock. There's going to be two options offered with LifeLock, Essential Plan and a Premier Plan, and it's offered to the individual or the family. Couple of price structures. I don't have the prices on this slide, but employees will see this when they go through the portal. It is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 and change for the individual for the lower plan, $11 and change for the family, and then you're going to double that for the Premier Plan. This plan is voluntary, so employees elect this. This is not paid for by the employer. It's effective, and employees are eligible for this effective 11/1. And some of the basic differences between Essential and Premium or Premier. The Premier Plan has some checks on checking and savings accounts. It also checks more devices or keeps track of more devices, and it gives you credit reports. So on the Premier Plan, you'll see an annual credit report and a monthly credit score. Those are basically the differences. Otherwise, the benefits are very similar, and there's great coverage. I didn't really go into identity theft. I think most people really know what that is, but it's a major problem. So these prices are very competitive. If you were buying this on your own, you would not get the prices that you can get through Prestige. So I think some employees are going to be pretty excited about this, and I expect a decent enrollment. Okay, LifeLock. FinFit. So this is not brand new to us for open enrollment, but it did just come out this year. So I wanted to mention it because it's also unique. It's a unique product that's offered through Prestige, and this is, FinFit is financial fitness. They offer financial assessments for employees. They'll go through their prospects and what they're set up with, and they offer short-term loans. So they have some financial coaching as part of this FinFit, and I think it's a pretty valuable product for employees. As every financial person I've ever talked to says, you gotta have a plan. Gotta have a plan. So, okay, so that's FinFit. Next new product. Now this also is not brand new. This product came out last year, but we didn't have these webinars then, and it is definitely a product that's not available through all PEOs or all products. This is a whole life benefit offered to employees through Prestige. So we always had voluntary life for employees where they can get a term policy and the rates are based on the benefit and their age. This Mass Mutual product is a whole life product that the employee can enroll in. And it's unique in that it builds cash value. The employees can sign up for it, and whatever the premium is at the age they sign up for it, it will not change. So if you are a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or a young person, you can get a very good rate on a plan like this and keep it for the rest of your life and never pay a higher premium for it. It's fully portable, so it goes with you as an employee. You can apply for this plan for you, for your spouse, for your kids, for your grandkids. There's some nice options in here. And there is a guarantee issue amount of up to $100,000 when it's first offered. And then you can add to that policy on an annual basis. So you can keep upgrading the amount. Whole life is a little more expensive, so employees will be directed to the Mass Mutual website, and they'll go through the process of putting their information in, and they'll see their costs. It is not as cheap as a regular MetLife voluntary plan, which is just a term policy that changes when your age changes. But like I said, it's fully portable. The premium won't ever change for the employee or their dependents, and builds cash value. So a nice option. Okay, MetLife dental plans. No changes this year for MetLife, but I wanted to point out a couple of positives. So last year, the MetLife upgraded a little bit. And when I say no changes, I mean no changes to rates either. So we had a flat renewal, which is really nice. No premium increase. But let's talk about the first plan here is the premium plan. So that's a great plan. Last year, the benefit max went up to $2,000 per member. So that's a nice benefit. This plan, when you go out of network, you can see dentist and it goes by usual and customary, which is very good out of network. The plan next to it, Enhanced, one of the best dental plans in the market. Also, when you go out of network, goes by usual and customary, but the changes for this plan last year were for periodontics and endodontics. So if you look down to the end of major services, the last category, you'll see that on the MetLife Enhanced plan, periodontics and endodontics are covered at 80% instead of 50%, which is a great feature for that Enhanced plan. Standard and MetLife DHMO stay the same. Standard uses the maximum allowable charge schedule when you go out of network. So that plan's better when you're in network, but still a good plan. Okay, good for dental. Useful information. This is really more for employees who are looking for dentists. Just some information that we threw in here. Okay, Assurant Dental. So Assurant Dental is another DHMO option, but it's offered in more states. So there were some changes to the Assurant Dental plan this year for New York, only for New York. So the New York Assurant plan upgraded a little bit. And this year, there's some coverage for implants and coverage for procedures performed by specialists as a standard. That wasn't always a standard before. So the Assurant plans did have some changes, but just for New York. Now, you can see all the states that it's offered in at the top. Okay, no changes to United Healthcare Vision either. Still a great plan. They added Warby Parker to the network last year. Employees can continue to get those low rates for the voluntary vision plan, or employers can contribute. That's fine too. No changes. Okay. And these are just more of the products that employees are going to see as they go through our website. So MetLife, critical illness, accident, and hospital, 2 levels for most plans. I'm going to go a little faster now because this is stuff that's been in place. But as employees go through the portal, they're going to see all these options, and they'll make selections. They'll either elect or they'll waive. MetLaw program. This is MetLaw's version of Legal Shield, prepaid legal. Great option. Employees can elect it annually at open enrollment. So if they know they're going to be closing on a home, or they have a parent who's going to have elder care issues, or a teenage driver who is likely to get into some accidents or some trouble, they may want to elect MetLaw legal program this year. Okay, FSA. So flexible spending accounts. They run on a calendar year, so a little different. Everything we talked about so far has been effective 11/1, right, because that's our open enrollment. But flexible spending runs on a calendar year, January till the end of December. Employees are going to have the option to make those elections through the portal from October 1st till December 13th of 2020 for 2021. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that. There will be links as employees go through the portal to take them to task to make their elections, but sometimes employees miss it, they're not paying attention. We can send reminders, but I want to make sure employers know what's going on with that. Also, the unused funds, $550 now can roll over. We did amend our plan to allow $550 to roll over from 2020 to 2021. It used to be $500. And the max contribution right now is $2,750. Next page. That may change. They often don't tell us until after all the information is already out. It's just the way the IRS does things. Okay. Flexible spending. You also have the dependent care option. Employees can still put $5,000 aside for dependent care. That is not pre-funded. So the medical side, we know employees make an election, they have access to that money right away, and we take it over the course of the year out of each paycheck. For the dependent care, it's available as it comes into the account for employees to spend. Okay. Health savings accounts, high deductible plans. So we talked about open enrollment being effective 11/1. There is one exception to that. So employees on high deductible plans or traditional plans, if they change from a traditional plan to a high deductible plan, there is a special enrollment period. They have an option to either make that change 11/1 or January 1. So I'm just going to repeat that because I want to make sure everybody gets it, and not everybody knows that. It's a different kind of thing. So if you are changing from a traditional regular medical plan to a high deductible plan, or from a high deductible plan to a traditional plan, then each employee has the choice of doing that either November 1st or January 1st. And there's a very specific reason for that. The deductibles for our plans run on a calendar year. Even though our renewal is effective 11/1, deductibles don't reset until January. So if you were an employee and you were on a high deductible plan and you've already met your deductible for the year, and you want to move to a traditional plan, if you do that effective 11/1, you lose the last 2 months where everything was going to be covered because you've already met your deductible. So we don't want to do that. If you were on a traditional plan and you want to move to the high deductible plan, you'll have that big deductible for November and December, and then it'll reset January, and we don't want to do that either. So that's why we have that special enrollment period of January 1. So brokers, client managers, I want you to know that employees who move from one to the other have that special enrollment period. Okay. Employers also need to let us know if they're making contributions to health savings accounts for their employees. We need that information by the end of December to make sure we set that up. Most of the employers communicate it with open enrollment. So those of you out there that are listening that know that you do this, that you make a contribution towards your employees' coverage for the year, just make sure that we know what that is and we have it set up for the year of 2021. It's IRS rules that say that that has to be elected each year. Okay. Okay, summary. I'm just about done talking. Open enrollment changes take effect 11/1. Employer decisions need to be sent in to the benefits specialist. Oxford changes, we know, fertility, and the new platform, very important. New ID cards, new numbers. Emblem Health changes, added plans, some employees being mapped over, also new cards. New products that are available that employees are going to see, LifeLock, FinFit, Mass Mutual, not brand new, but they'll see it. And that website, the open enrollment microsite. Please visit that. If you're a client manager, I think you're really going to find some good information there, and it will help you with the process, especially if you're a new employer with us. No changes on the dental or the vision, still great. No changes to rates, no changes to plans. Assurant, the upgrade for New York. Employees that wish to contribute to the FSA need to make their elections. Through the portal, they can do it till December 31st. December 13th. After December 13th and until the end of the year of 2020, they can send that information over to the benefit specialist, and we'll still get them set up. We just have to do it by paper. All right, so please feel free to contact your benefit specialist for help, your brokers for help, for any questions you have. Benefit specialists typically this time of year are working with clients and setting up meetings to go over the benefit enrollment, to go over all the changes and everything that's going on with the employees. This year, those meetings will be webinars. In the past, they were in person, but hopefully that will allow time to do a few more meetings. And then I just want to thank everybody for their time. Please feel free to reach out with questions. Your human resource business partners also can help. They have a lot of information they follow and work with the benefits department always through open enrollment. So thank you for your continued partnership.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. You know, before I pass it over to Carol and Ryan to talk about the loan forgiveness information and program, you know, I do want to take a second to just appreciate Kathleen coming on to talk about this clearly relevant information as we're going into open enrollment. I mean, I will say this is their World Series. This is their Super Bowl. This is what we work for all year long, and I'm happy to have Kathleen and her experience helping to guide this benefits department and this organization, Prestige, through this process with all of our clients. I will say that it's truly a year-long process. You know, you'd think that once we get through this open enrollment, you know, we have some time to rest, but the reality is that we move right on into preparing for the next year's open enrollment. And for those of you that have been with us for a little while, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the changes that have come down the line over the past number of years, you know, going from a completely paper process to, you know, the type of electronic enrollment systems that we have now. And a lot of that is in part due to, you know, the involvement from Kathleen and her team here. So I'm happy to have their support, to be able to rely on them, as well as the HR business partners, but the benefit specialists are here to help everybody through this. So thank you, Kathleen. We all appreciate it. Now, I'd like to switch some gears and move on to the Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness process. As I mentioned, you know, we're going to take some time with Carol and Ryan to go through, you know, a bit of a refresher in the application, the reports, and some information around that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the reins over to Carol and Ryan.
All right. Thank you very much, Jason. We're going to start with me. Ryan will be chiming in a moment. We have found out that there are some banks that are accepting forgiveness applications. Signature Bank, which is a fairly regional bank, has opened their portal quite some time ago. Chase is doing kind of a slow rollout. They're doing it by invitation only. We have at least 2 clients that have submitted their forgiveness application to Chase Bank. Wells Fargo and Citibank, last I checked, are still not accepting. And then there's a host of other smaller regional banks and other banks that have been involved with this. It varies, so you'll just need to keep an eye on your bank. But what I do want to stress, and we have said it ever since we've started the forgiveness process, is there's no rush to apply. The rush in the beginning was to apply because we were worried about money running out, and it almost did, and thankfully was refunded or refilled the bucket. But in this point, there is no rush, so please don't feel that it's something that you have to have done yesterday. So a quick review of what the application process looks like. There is the actual calculation form, or the application itself, however you want to look at it. It's a 2-page form. First page being numbers, second page mostly being initials for attestations that you promise you've told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There is Schedule A, and then the Schedule A worksheet. The Schedule A worksheet, again, is not something that needs to be submitted. Only the application itself and Schedule A need to be submitted, but it needs to be completed so all of the information can roll up into Schedule A and then the application. Slide. And this is what we've shown on here, is that in order to complete the Schedule A, you need to complete the worksheets. And that is where the fantastic PPP loan forgiveness report designed by Prestige is available to help you. And now I will turn it over to Ryan.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Ryan Yanalfo, Director of Process Improvement here at Prestige. Very, very happy to be here. Very excited to be here. I'm glad you're all here as well. for those of you who might have been on one of our webinars going back about a month or 6 weeks ago, we started to talk about this report that was still in development at the time, something that we've put a lot of energy into for the sole purpose of making this process as easy to navigate, right, for you as possible. We didn't like the idea of wanting to tell our customers, hey, here's 8 different reports that you can run and combine and do all the math yourself and have a nice day. That didn't feel in line with who we are and the service that we want to provide. And I think that throughout the entire, COVID pandemic process, we've certainly put a lot of energy in all aspects of what we've done to try to make this as easy to navigate as possible, which brings us to this report, which I am unbelievably excited about because of really the value and the time saving I think that it can bring to pretty much everybody trying to work through this loan experience. So super excited to announce that it's done. We've built this large report that I'm going to talk about right now. And then the whole intention was to try to bring everything into one place, something that was easy to understand, something that doesn't take very long for us to generate for you as well, and can help, gather all the information you need, do all the math you need it to do for the application. So starting already, you can reach out to anyone on your Prestige service team, your HRBP, your payroll specialist, to request the report. And it's something we can then generate and share back with you. This slide shows some of the basic parameters that we do need from you in order to run the report properly, right? There's different moving pieces and different ways to file for forgiveness and different ways we can provide you the report. So first and foremost, we need to know the date of your loan. When did you receive the proceeds, right? Because that's what starts the clock on the forgiveness process, on the loan period. So we're going to need to know the day that you received the funds. Then we're going to need to know whether you want this report for the 8-week period or the 24-week period, right? After the initial application had come out, additional guidance and legislation was passed by Congress that allowed for companies who received loans to use a 24-week period rather than an 8-week period. So we want to know which one you're looking for the report for. Further from that, though, 24 weeks, that's almost 6 months. Most people, if not all, companies who received their loans, 24 weeks hasn't passed yet. And if it has, it just passed for those who got very early loans. So something that you're allowed to do is you're allowed to cut that 24 weeks short if you'd like. Say, you got the loan on April 15th. 24 weeks haven't passed yet, but maybe 19 have, and you want to see it through that period, we can do that too. So if you want the period cut slightly short from 24 weeks, just let us know that end date that you'd like us to use. And then we get into the covered period versus alternative covered period conversation for any companies in the country that pay their payrolls on a weekly or biweekly basis and not any less frequently. You're allowed to use what's called the alternative covered period, which basically means amending the start date of the loan period from the date you actually received the funds to the beginning of whatever your very next pay period start date is. So if you are looking to use the alternative covered period, we need to know that so we can get the dates accordingly. And we obviously need to know what date that is, which certainly our payroll specialist can help determine, right? We know when your payrolls run, we know what your periods are, but nonetheless, we will need to know, do you want alternative and what that start date is. So on the slide that's just come up here, the report itself has numerous tabs. It's an Excel document with numerous tabs. We're going to only really talk about the 4 whose names you see on the slide right now, because those are the 4 that roll up all of the raw data into the sheets and the views that you need to then fill out both the worksheet and the Schedule A itself. The information we're showing you on these reports is, of course, reflective on the data we have in our systems. And Carol will talk to this point once I'm finished through my slides, that obviously there's a lot of information this application needs that we don't know. Your mortgage payments, your utilities, so on and so forth. But all of those payroll and benefits and tax-related costs, we do have that. And based on the information that's in our system and based on the info that you've processed through payrolls in our system, That's what then gets dumped into this report. So again, a lot of other tabs that contain the raw data, sort of the backup to what then gets rolled up into these tabs to show you the worksheet and the Schedule A itself. So as we move on to the next slide here, this is similar to what we showed, like I said, the number of weeks ago when I joined. We can move on to the perfect. So the worksheet, right? The worksheet captures employee by employee information, and it does it in two different tables. The worksheet has table 1 and it has table 2. Table 1 wants to capture everyone you had employed during your loan period, but whether they go in table 1 or table 2 depends on what they made in 2019. So it's going to list everybody employed during the loan period, and table 1 is going to capture, okay, who of those individuals made less than or equal to $100,000 annually in 2019 or was not employed at all in 2019. Captures a few different data points for those employees. It has their name and the last 4 of their social security number. But more importantly, it captures their cash compensation for the loan period, right? Their average full-time equivalency calculation for the loan period, and something called the salary hourly wage reduction. So the cash compensation is what they made in the loan period, and it's capped at a certain number based on the regulations and the guidance in the application that you can't just use every dollar paid to every employee, right? It gets capped at a certain dollar amount. The FTE calculation and the salary hourly wage reduction calculations, those affect your forgiveness, right? I think as we all know by this point, the application process, the loan process wants to make assumptions that you keep the same number of full-time employees through the loan period, and that if you reduce your headcount, you might be subject to a reduction in your forgiveness. Same thing on the salary and hourly rate. The loans want you to keep everybody's rate at the same rate they were paid before you received the loan. And if you reduced anyone's hourly rate or salary, you might be subject to a reduction in your forgiveness. So there's all sorts of convoluted math that goes into calculating both of those figures, and it's laid out in the application. If any of you want some extremely boring reading, go take a look, right? It is very involved, very intricate. The whole idea is that this report does it all for you and prints the numbers exactly the way you're going to need them to then plug into the actual application. As we move to the next slide, it looks at table 2. It looks borderline identical to table 1 with a couple different changes here. Table 2 captures everyone employed in the loan period who was paid more than $100,000 in 2019. The only other difference here is the salary hourly wage reduction does not apply to these individuals. So that column is gone. But the cash compensation as well as the full-time equivalency calculation, both still here, both still relevant and accomplished by the report. On the next slide, this is the last piece of the worksheet before we get to the Schedule A itself. At the bottom of the worksheet, the application has you go through what's called the FTE safe harbor calculation. So like I mentioned on table 1 and table 2, if you reduced the hours of your individuals, that could affect the full-time equivalency calculation of how many FTEs you have as an organization, right? But they put a safe harbor in place that if you got your headcount back up to where it was, right, but from when the loan started to where the loan ended, if you got your headcount back up, then you've met the safe harbor and you don't have to worry about a reduction in headcount. Again, convoluted math, convoluted steps needed to get to these calculations. We're happy to explain them all to anybody who wants to understand truly what's happening with the numbers behind the scenes. But what you see on your screen now and what the report shows you is basically a carbon copy of what's on the worksheet itself. Those sort of 5 steps with the verbiage behind the 5 steps and the numbers, the calculations that you need to determine, did I meet the safe harbor or did I not? And depending on whether you did or you didn't, that will then affect some of the information that goes on the Schedule A itself, which, as we move to the next slide, this is that final relevant tab that we're here to talk about today, which is the Schedule A itself. Ultimately now, this is rolling up everything from those prior 3 tabs. So you can see steps 1, 2, and 3 are covering the individuals from Table 1. Steps 4 and 5 covering the steps from Table 2. As you move into 6, 7, 8, and 9, there's certainly more happening here now, right? So 6, 7, and 8 are dealing specifically with benefits, 401k or retirement plan expenses, rather, match dollars, as well as state and local taxes. And for those of you who remember the process of applying for the loan in the first place, right, these were the payroll costs that were allowed to be included when calculating your monthly costs as an organization for payroll that you could use for applying for the loan. If you noticed on the other tabs, benefits and 401k match and taxes, that they weren't covered in Table 1 and Table 2. That was just the cash compensation. This is where those numbers now get captured. For all of your individuals, all of those costs go into 6, 7, and 8. And then 9 is an interesting line. This is now where your owner's information goes. Owners are excluded from Tables 1 and 2 on the worksheet. They do not get listed there. All of the dollar amounts and relevant costs for owners go into line 9 here. There are different regulations for owners of different types of organizations, C Corps versus S Corps versus LLCs, so on and so forth. We're happy to have conversations with anybody who wants to understand the differences of the numbers that do or do not get included in line 9 based on the organization type. But we have on our end as clear of an understanding as anyone in the country could have, right, as to what the current guidance is for what should and shouldn't be included. And it all comes into line 9. Again, all of the other tabs in the Excel doc have the backup information that we're going to be very happy to explain what's there, explain the raw data, and provide any other reports you think you might need, right, to back up the whole forgiveness process and the data that you see within this report. At the very bottom, right, line 10 is simply adding together some lines from above it. And then you see there at the bottom, lines 11 through 13. That's now the FTE reduction calculation to determine, does there need to be a reduction in your forgiveness amount? If you had met the safe harbor from the worksheet, this becomes irrelevant. You met the safe harbor. For all intents and purposes, there was no reduction in FTE. You don't have to worry about it. But if you did not meet the safe harbor, then it goes into, again, a whole new set of math to determine what your reduction may or may not be. So that's it. I think at this point I can pass it back to Carol. I might chime in with more as we talk, but again, I couldn't be more excited about being able to roll this out to everybody. We hope it's a huge help, and we're definitely here to help answer any questions whatsoever. So Carol, to you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Great job as always. The first thing I do want to elaborate more on, and Ryan spoke to this a little bit, is that line 9 owner compensation. We will have the numbers to go into that for S Corps and C Corps because those owners are issued W-2s. However, with partnerships and LLCs, the draws, the guaranteed payments, whatever you want to call the money that goes to the partner owners in those organizations doesn't come through the PrestigePEO system. And even if it does, we are not pulling that information for that line. So this is where you as the client and as the business, the borrower, will need to update that figure beyond what might be in our report. And this is where I want to stress again, this report represents the information that's in PrestigePEO. If there's something incorrect in PrestigePEO, meaning that somebody has not been flagged as an owner, a variety of things can be off. Maybe you use a 35-hour work week and you went to 40 hours, and so that makes it look like an FTE reduction, and it's not. This is a working document. We are giving you this, and this is why we're delivering it in an Excel spreadsheet, is so that you can make the adjustments. You are the borrower. You need to be able to stand behind the numbers that you put on the application form that you submit to your bank. So you'll need to add some information on line 9 if you're a partnership or an LLC. So the one thing I will now talk about is the main application itself, and hold on, I will get to the easy form shortly. The areas highlighted in yellow are the lines that we're giving you the information for. On the application, we don't have your mortgage payments, your rent, or your utilities. Those are things that you will need to plug in yourself. And then the next session, we provide some of the numbers. And then the rest of it is just plain old difficult math, which you'll need to just carry out on your own. So as you can see, our report gives you 90% of what is needed to fill out your application. Now, we've discussed the full application, and so let's just take a moment and take a look at the EZ form. Now, yes, the EZ form is a one-page. There is another page with the attestation saying you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and all of this is correct, and we didn't cut any employees, and we didn't reduce any wages, and all of those items. We are still providing you with line 1, which is payroll costs, because in our report that we give you, that is the total amount from Schedule A. So we don't have a separate report for those of you that are completing the EZ form, but you will be able to take that amount from the Schedule A worksheet in our report and enter that amount on line 1. And then once again, it is all information that you have. The math is easier because you have no salary reduction and no FTE reduction, so you don't need to do that additional math. So our report will serve both people that are doing the full application and those that are submitting the EZ application. Now, the applications themselves are designed by the SBA, and they are what they are. However, we don't know what individual banks will be requiring. And as all of you went through the application process, we discovered then that, Chase Bank wants this report, Citibank wanted this instead. So as you start that process, if your bank requests additional documents, whether it's copies of the invoices, which you can pull, there's a benefit cost report that shows all of the benefit costs that you've paid. Yes, the amount you're putting on the application is less, which is a valid statement that you can make that, yes, not everything we paid is eligible for forgiveness. So yes, we paid this much, but only this much is eligible for forgiveness. They might want the client allocation report, which mimics the 941, which many of you use to make the application. So start the dialogue with us. Let us speak to your HRBPs and payroll specialists as your banks give you guidelines on what additional documentation you will need. You will also need to provide documentation for your interest payments, for your rent, and for your utility expenses, whether it's, the bank statement, if you do your bill pay by like that, or canceled checks, or however you made those payments. So that takes you through the forgiveness application process.
Thank you, Carol and Ryan. Yes, I'm really happy to be able to bring these very relevant topics to everybody today. Clearly, the expertise and the participation between Carol and Ryan, and of course Kathleen with open enrollment, is clearly needed. So thank you all for being involved. I will point everyone on the call right now to view our website. We have all of this information as well as the deck, and the recording will be posted on our website. So please hop onto the PrestigePEO website to take a look at this, as well as any other information that you may want to gather throughout your week. You can also reach out to your support team here at Prestige, your HR business partner, your payroll specialist, your benefit specialist, and we'll be able to help you at any point during the day. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us this morning, and I'm looking forward to speaking to everybody again soon. Take care.